It is Monday, March the 11th, 2024. I am James. You are you. We are here currently 8 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. I said it last week. I'm saying it tonight. It's a big fight feel. Why? Because we have got 4 big fights, including who? 4 of the biggest nerd subsets as part of March Madness Nerd Edition, or as our title depicts, Nerd Madness Week 2. Last week, 8 different subsets went head-to-head. Our panel systematically and efficiently eliminated 4, leaving 4, which move on to the quarterfinals. Tonight, it is week 2. We do the exact same thing. I want to get into this. I'm hot, I'm heavy, and I'm ready to go. Before we do it, I want to welcome the show's one and only side piece, Dave Kaufman. Dave, are you ready for tonight?
Yeah, I'm ready. I think so.
Now, there was some feedback on the show last week.
Feedback from whom?
People said you were a nerd apologist.
Interesting. I would say that, yeah, I would be a nerd apologist. I feel like my main concern with this whole event is that we're going to be cruel to people who are merely passionate about the things that they like.
Now, do you think we were cruel?
I think that we rode the line. I think that we were maybe 1 inch to the right, kind of like Mighty Ducks. We would have been rude and mean.
All right. Now, who do you think rode the line the hardest last week? It was yourself, myself, Cathy, Fagan, and Mark Rowland.
Well, definitely wasn't Mark. I think Mark is a full-blown nerd.
Yeah, he activated a level of nerddom that sickened even I.
Well,
and I love
mean,
the guy.
That's not impressive because you get sickened by nerddom quite easily.
Very easily.
Yes.
Are you saying that I rode the line the hardest?
I would say it was either you or Cool Cathy, who is a bit of a bully, I've noticed.
Well, Cathy is the show's cool expert. That's why she was here. You need someone cool to lay down the law.
Do you?
I think so. How do you have a nerd single elimination tournament without a couple cool people? So we had a cool person and a nerd. Cathy and Mark were from both ends of the spectrum. They were on totally opposite sides of the track.
I guess you're right. I guess in order to, without the right hand, there would be no left hand.
What do you think is going to happen tonight? We've got 1 extra panelist, which means, and we talked about this off air, no possibility for a tie in any of the matchups. How do you feel tonight is going to stack up against last week as it pertains to either being nice, medium nice, or not nice at all?
I think I'm worried that we might get meaner this show. I think that we've opened the floodgates and some of the water is going to come out.
Well, this is interesting because as much as I like to defend you, and I'm going to in this moment, I felt even you got a little mean last week, but not over the line.
No, I didn't go over the line. And I don't
There was a moment when you turned, though, and it was while Mark was talking about, I believe, being at a Klingon panel.
I think there's one thing that bothers me about nerddom, and that's gatekeeping. And so it was in an instance of Mark gatekeeping that upset me a little bit, I will admit.
Okay, so that's the one part of maybe any spectrum of the nerd you don't like, is when they try to keep other people out.
That's right.
All right, well, Dave, we're going to welcome our guest tonight. This is a who's who. So without any further ado, let us open the door and let the panelists in. Now, originally promoted on this show, we're going to start with former tech director of this show, Andy Assaf. Andy, tonight you will be representing the nerds.
Okay. All right. Thanks for having me back, James. I didn't know that.
I know. I'm telling you right now.
But I did just come back from a screening of Dune 2.
All right. Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm fucking ready to nerd out.
Okay.
I got
Andy,
the king of the nerds right here.
Oh, this guy. This guy. It makes you wish he was still a tech director with words like that. Woo! Andy, which type of nerd groups would you say you affiliate to?
All of them. Every single one. Yeah.
All right.
Name me one that I'm not. James, I fucking dare you.
All right. Well, we'll get into it as the night goes on. Marlaena Moore, I believe you straddle both ends of where cool meets nerdy.
Mm.
In the cool part of town, because you're a rock star. In the nerd part of town, you're a cinephile, which was eliminated last week. Quickly.
Um, yes, I think I tend to get pretty nerdy about a lot of things, but I think what keeps me from being
A Mark
fully
Rowland.
full yeah is just lack of commitment.
Okay.
I like to sample all that this world has to offer. I'm a woman who craves life, love, and longing, and I want to try it all. From film to improv to Dungeons and Dragons. Just sampling, but never fully making my identity that a subset.
Okay, now, Cathy, you demanded to come back tonight.
I
Not
did.
scheduled to be on this show. After the show on Monday, a couple days passed, you texted me to talk about how fired up you were doing last Monday's show. What about last Monday spoke to you more than any other appearance?
Oh, it just felt so raw and so wonderful. And it was so heated, and I just wanted to be back to give my opinion.
I love it. Now, not only do you represent the cool side of things, I'm officially stating that you also represent bullies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm coming. That's the angle I'm hitting at tonight.
All right. So, what I want to do right now, before we get into it fast and furiously, I would like, Dave, if we can, to bring up the bracket. We're going to quickly recap which advanced last week, which did not advance and was eliminated, and talk about tonight's bracket. So, let's quickly do a recap. Last week, it was the opening round, seeds 1 through 8. LARPers, live action role players, quickly, soundly defeated cinephiles. Sci-fi enthusiasts defeated comic book fans, and that was one of the more controversial topics. Fantasy fans defeated improvisers, and video gamers was defeated by bronies, also known as grown-up men who enjoy My Little Pony. We're going to now veer over to this week's seeds 9 through 16. Tonight we've got pro wrestling fans against Ren Fair people. We've got computer nerds against Disney adults, cosplayers, which is costume play, against role-playing gamers, so board games, Dungeons and Dragons, things of that nature, and weebs, which are people who are obsessed with Japanese culture, namely manga and anime, against collectors, people who collect any number of things, which could veer from a wall filled with Funko Pops or even stamp collectors. So that's what we've got going on tonight. As we did last week, let's quickly go through all the brackets for immediate reaction. Andy, let's start with you. Pro wrestling fans and enthusiasts.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw Iron Claw. Okay, so I think I know a thing or two about wrestling now.
Sure.
And I gotta say, knowing you,
Mm-hmm.
you love wrestling.
True.
I've been gifted the wrestling bug via you because I used to not watch it growing up, thinking it was fake. I would constantly say, "Nah, wrestling's fake. It's lame. I want some real combat sports." But now, as I get older, real combat sports scare me,
Yeah.
and wrestling is a lot more fun. So,
Interesting. Okay, Dave, let's go to you. Wrestling fans.
The fans themselves.
Yeah. We're talking about the nerd, just like comic book fans, fantasy fans, the nerd of the nerd when it comes to wrestling fans. We had the pleasure of seeing many when we took a road trip to Boston. Not last year, it was 2022 now, and we saw some true dorks.
That's true, and I think it's interesting about wrestling is that because it's such a sort of like an action sport, and people feel like it's like brutal in a way and macho in a way. There's a real juxtaposition between the macho-ness of like having a belt and sort of the nerdiness of like 1,000 guys carrying the same belt into a giant ring.
Wearing jorts.
Wearing jorts. There's a lot of jorts, a lot of cargo clothes. So many pockets.
Not even cargo shorts, but cargo clothes.
Pockets
Shirts with
everywhere.
Pockets everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty nerdy, but people like it, and that's it's good for them.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah.
Cathy, let's go to you. Pro wrestling fans, any thoughts?
I didn't understand wrestling for a long time, and James like came to see Battle War once, and I was like, this slaps. I feel like it takes a lot of talent to be able to do it. But yeah, I do agree with the jorts and the make believe. That's a little hard to buy into.
Well, I'll say this. I would say, like, the parallel that I can describe it as is when you see Star Wars fans or Marvel fans arguing online about what's best for the stories and things like that. That to me is what exemplifies like nerddom when it comes to wrestling fans. It's the interest is different. The identity is exactly the same, and it's gotten far worse over the years. Now they argue about the television ratings, the number of people in the audience. It's become an albatross. Marlaena, let's go to you quickly. Pro wrestling fans.
So I would say just in general, I think that anything that anyone could have a like medium interest in who potentially does actually dress well, it can't be considered one of the nerdiest things to be interested in. And because the truth is like no matter what, the bottom line nerd that you're talking about will be intolerable across all subsets.
Marlaena, you came to play tonight.
Yeah, we love that.
So basically, any topic that we go through tonight, that's going to be your hard line. Is that they're one and the same?
So we briefly talked about this recently, where my criteria for something that's truly like nerdy, like can't relate to you, nerdy,
sickening.
Is like. It's the graph where like niche and like time and money and goes into an interest.
Well, can I jump in? Cathy also mentioned identity, if I'm not incorrect, last week when it becomes this is my identity is I wear jorts and wear replica memorabilia.
Yes, and you know what? It's just in terms of like how far you can go, it's not far enough.
Okay, I don't like it. I love it. We're going to move on. Tonight, pro wrestling fans are up against Ren Fair. Again, what we're doing right now is we're going to go through every seed right now just for immediate thoughts. Cathy, let's start with you. People who go to Renaissance fairs.
I talked about this a little bit last week because I knew it was upcoming next week. I don't understand Renaissance fairs. Since then, I thought, okay, maybe the average person just going because there's one going on in their town, like, fine. But, like, getting into a Ren fair and, like, I just don't understand it. Like,
It's interesting because I could see you dressing up and going to a Ren fair, but maybe I should. Yeah.
I might for fun, but I can't see myself, like, understanding the appeal of somebody who's bought into it as, like, a niche.
Right. You wouldn't immediately become, just me, Lady Fagan.
Yeah, those are the people that are doing this.
All right. I love how cruel Cathy is. Dave, Ren fairs. Let's get a diplomatic response.
I think, you know what, I'm pro. I've never been to a Ren fair. It wouldn't really interest me, but I get the appeal of it. Like, people go, they dress up like times of yore, and it's, they eat, like, pig that was cooked on a spittle or whatever. What's it called?
Yeah, see giant bosoms.
Yeah, exactly. Scantily clad, giant, buxomous woman.
Hell of a I gave you the descriptor. I said
buxomous.
Whatever I said, and you added scantily clad, buxomous. Really,
I get it. I feel like anyone who's done like a Shakespeare play, I feel like you're kind of doing Ren Fair.
Okay, that's very interesting.
It's being reinterpreted for the modern era.
Sure.
Marlaena,
sure.
Do you have any strong feelings about Ren Fair, or is it going to be basically?
So this is exactly what I'm talking about before. Like, people who are going to, like, your interview with Billie Eilish, Megan Thee Stallion. Do you think they're going to casually drop, like, oh, you know what? I love a Ren Fair. No,
I'll tell you what. I'm sure Dave would love if Billie Eilish went to a Ren Fair.
Jeez, Dave.
Whoa,
Jesus
hey.
Christ.
What are you talking about?
Anyway, and so it's something that is not like, it's not making waves in the culture right now also, right? You know, I feel like maybe in like the 90s when we were seeing a lot of like, you know, this is not like medieval or whatever, but like Titanic, like early like 20th century, like the corseted, the locks, like really hyper feminine dressing, and even like the like Michelle Pfeiffer, like Midsummer's Night Dream, like the Shakespeare love, you know, it's like that aesthetic was very popular. But now, even though you could argue that like everything is kind of popular because there is an audience of like with the social media, what have you, I feel like you can't be someone. The bottom line is that if you are, no one is casually into like a Ren fair if that is what your thing is. And then also too, like if you're really investing a lot of money to look sick as fuck at a Ren fair, I mean, that is some, you know, that's some hefty couture.
Marlaena, it sounds like you're on the clock on like a CNN Crossfire episode.
We don't have all day, so let's keep this going.
Yeah. Andy, thoughts on Ren fairs? This seems like something maybe you've been to.
Well, so I only ran into one accidentally once, and that was in Vermont. It was when we were going, Dimitri and some friends were going to visit the Ben & Jerry's factory. And then we saw a Ren fair, and we're like, let's go check it out. And they didn't let us in because we weren't dressed up.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. That
Literal
was an
gatekeeping
experience. So we took a picture with the sign, and that felt just as fun as probably going into the Ren fair. I agree with Marlaena as far as like, I feel like there's a peak 90s element to it. Like Ren fair people are like the fish fans of this.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely.
You know, people who are into it are probably really into it, but they also are probably almost retired now.
And probably into, you know, like crafts and turquoise and woven baskets. You know, their house probably reflects, you know, pauper Renaissance people. You know,
I feel like you have to live in a Burlington, Vermont, or a Syracuse, New York, to get into it.
Or British Columbia. You know, that
size of a city.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to propose, because we've dove in pretty hard. These are just supposed to be brief thoughts. We can either start this matchup now or quickly go through the rest of the seeds, or do it as we've been doing it.
I think this is an easy one.
Yeah.
Let's do the matchup.
I want to get your reaction on what we should do.
I think we should go into the matchup. I feel like it's 9:25.
Yeah, well, once I heard Marlaena going, I was like, I think we just got to do the matchup. I think this is what it is. Marlaena did not come to play.
There's something I want to mention about wrestling.
Yes,
fans.
yeah, okay, we're doing the matchup. Let's go back and forth here.
And I feel like there's this, and so we went to a few different wrestling events together, James, and I would follow.
We've been to a handful together.
I would follow them after on Twitter, like I'd see what people are saying about it, and I've noticed something amongst wrestling fans where they all feel like they are privy to insider info more than the next guy. Like everyone calls each other Mark. Because like they don't know what's...
in wrestling jargon it's a very dated term that's kind of lost its understanding. It means way back when it's someone who would believe the illusion, but it has kind of undergone a bit of a change. It's more of just an insult. You're a bad fan, or you don't understand how it works.
Like your last name is Roland.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Continue, Dave.
So every fan, like a lot of fans who are like nerdy about it, all accuse everybody else of not knowing about it as much as them, but then they aren't part of the industry or anything, so they're actually marks as well. So I feel like that adds to how nerdy the wrestling fan culture is.
All right.
But to counter your point, Dave, I think the fact that like none of us here really, like, you know, Andy wasn't even let into a Ren fair because he wasn't dressed properly. You know, this is something that is extremely niche that none of us have even tapped into. Like, we don't even know what the bottom line with them. And I think, you know, speaking to that, it's like, to me, that's even nerdier because we don't even have insight.
Sure.
In defense of every topic, most of us don't have a lot of insight into any of these other than making fun of them because they're dorks.
Look, I was denied from a Ren Fair, unlike Dave, who was banned from them for looking at luxurious beauties. But I'll say this though: here in Toronto, we have what's it called? The
Medieval Times,
Medieval
correct?
Times, which I've yet to go, but anyone can really just walk in and buy a $60 turkey leg and kind of have a Ren Fair experience. So in that sense, I feel like it's been pretty mainstreamed and
Sure.
But
taken
anyone
out
can
of
buy a
that.
ticket to wrestling, you
That's
know,
true.
like,
Right.
and it's something that it's also
But no
like
one
a
wants
fun...
to.
Wait, I have a question.
But okay,
Which crowd do you think is more self-aware? Do you think a Ren Fair crowd is more self-aware or
Mm.
Cathy, this is an
This is a good
awesome,
question. Yeah.
awesome question.
Ren Fair is more
Ren
self-aware.
Fair, yeah.
I
for
would
sure.
I would say that a Ren Fair, and again, I know nothing about it, but I feel like they go home and they take their corset off or their flowing shirt and they're like, okay, well, I'm done for the day.
Yeah, that's the vibe I
That's
get. Even
interesting.
though I put Ren Fairs on blast, there's part of me that thinks that pro wrestling is nerdier.
I think also Andy being not allowed in is kind of like not being allowed into a costume party when you're not wearing a costume. Like the whole purpose of the fair is that everybody goes dressed up and like can have all be under like the guise of living in that time. So having another person in
Look,
who's
Dave,
not
just
wearing a
because you're
costume.
on the no-fly list of
Look,
Ren Fairs.
I have no horse in the race. I'm not allowed at either event anymore.
But I'll say this to Dave's point in Dave's defense.
They were
If you
very
can't
buxacious.
abide by the rules, why would they let you in? If that's a rule, it kind of makes sense you wouldn't if you're not dressed for the Ren Fair, you can't come in.
Yeah, everyone there wants to suspend disbelief for the period of
Yeah.
the fair. So if you're kind of ruining the charade,
It must
Yeah, I
be
agree.
really annoying if people have different levels of costumes. Like that's the like.
Well, yeah, because this
that
is
I
the
can't
thing.
stop
If he had a
thinking either,
costume
you know?
and they said your costume isn't up to snuff, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But it was no, you can't come in with your Wranglers and cowboy boots and leather vests.
Okay, here's the last thing I'll say on this matchup. Is only one of I think wrestling might even go all the way because think about how many podcast wrestling fans have,
Yeah.
True.
right? And I feel like there's 70 million podcasts.
Look, there's no one here tonight that's going to speak to it better than I can and I will. So this is what I'm going to say because my vote is going to wrestling. I've been swayed. I thought you got to be a real zero to go to a Ren Fair. Got to buy all the stuff. But as someone who's involved in the world and who is regularly sickened by wrestling fans, then, it's pretty easy for me. It's a pro wrestling fans. That's my vote. Dave, your vote.
I'm also voting for pro wrestling fans.
Kathy, your vote.
Pro wrestling fans.
Well, it's academic at this point, but let's keep going. Marlaena, your vote.
I'm voting for Ren Fair.
Okay.
Oh.
Can you tell us why?
Dissent.
I try to listen to my heart to try to give these things a chance. I think just because it's like you're saying, there's like a million podcasts about it. I think people can just like buy a ticket and like be part of the world. For me, what I'm kind of going for is literally like, what is the most niche, like you don't want to mention it at work because it could be embarrassing kind of a thing. So that's why I'm voting.
Damn, it's a great point. It is a great point.
I'd be more embarrassed to mention wrestling.
I think wrestling is way more mainstream than Ren Fairs.
This is my point.
Think about people that have no one has transitioned from a Ren Fair to Hollywood.
No, and I know
I'm
tons
sure
of
they
like
have.
cool musician people who are like, oh yeah, pro wrestling, so cool, wearing well-fitted Levi's denim jackets.
Yeah, but are we judging the population of fans as a whole, or are we judging the subset of nerds that live within the population?
It's a good. I'm
This is a
only
good
judging
point as well.
the subset of nerds because again,
Okay.
everything that we're talking about, there's perfectly normal comic book fans and perfectly normal fantasy fans. I like wrestling. It aggravates me a lot of the time, but for me, a lot of the illusion has been broken. But I don't get on Twitter and get into arguments with people about it. But I bet you there's a heavy Ren Fair online presence, but they have to find each other.
And
They're
it
still on
could,
message boards.
Well, let's just say this. Andy, what are you voting for?
I'm gonna vote wrestling, but I was swayed to almost vote Ren Fair. with
Okay,
that
so look,
last.
even if I were to swing vote, it's too late. Pro wrestling fans have defeated Ren Fair 3-2. We're moving on to our next matchup. We're gonna start with immediate reactions. It's computer nerds versus Disney adults. Cathy, you're in front of a number of computers. I would say, to some degree, would you call yourself a computer nerd?
I mean, I guess to some degree.
How do you feel about computer nerds?
I
Go.
think it's useful. People who can use their skills with computers probably are going to make a lot of money, and it can be a very lucrative career. And yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything wrong with being a computer nerd.
Okay, Dave, let's go to you.
I think that there's like
Because you work in programming, you know a lot about computers, so no one's going to speak to this better than you.
yeah, I feel like there's such a wide range of people who are interested in computers. True computer nerds, I also find still useful if I need to like buy a part or something.
But again, we're not talking about their usefulness.
Yeah.
They can both be useful, but disgusting.
Disney adults aren't really useful. Let's be honest.
I feel like
Okay, easy, Andy. We haven't gone to Disney adults yet.
Yeah. No, that's yeah.
I mean, actually, I know people who are overlap the two categories, but yeah, I think like maybe in the '80s, your computer nerd was more like traditional nerdy. Now, like everyone knows that if you learn computers, you can make a bunch of money. It's not like gate kept in the same kind of way. People are very active, wanting to distribute free software. There's sort of a whole like movement of like giving things out for free. There's a whole economy that's springed out of it with like cryptocurrency and stuff. I'm gonna say it's not that it's not as nerdy as it once was.
Well, I've worked in tech before. I've found computer nerds to be gross, but that's just me. Marlaena, let's go to you. Computer nerds.
Yeah, I think speaking to Dave's point, I mean, it's not as frightening as it once was. I mean, the first thing that I think of when I hear of computer nerds is when I went to my hippie school back in the day. The computer nerds were also the bullies as well, which again, you know,
Of course they were.
Cathy.
Of course they were.
It's all adding up. So they were so you know, immediately I'm like, oh, there's a lot of like hatred towards young women. Immediately I think of when I hear those
This
words
is the point
together.
that I was going to bring up
but
100%.
But I think that Dave is correct in saying that, like, you know, if you think of a computer nerd now, for me, it's like I can't even imagine what that could possibly be anymore. Like doing sweet custom builds or whatever.
Back in the day, a computer nerd would look the way Bill Gates did and does. Today, it would probably look like a young Remy Shand.
Yeah.
Mm.
Take a message from my love.
You know, I'm dropping that reference knowing it was for an audience of one. And the audience was satisfied.
I will say, though, there are some programmers who are very hot to trot on their own programming skills, sometimes rightfully so.
Dave, stop talking about yourself, man.
But and they will hold that over you, or they'll be very dismissive. And sometimes you get people with the same attitude, but they're not that good, and they're just
Dave, stop talking about yourself.
Andy,
man.
let's go to you. Computer nerds.
I would like to think of myself as a computer nerd. I built this build myself. I recently just
basically
purchased.
depicting what Dave was just talking about, nerds who pat themselves on the back.
Look, I'm pretty smart at stuff and really good at things, but listen, I just bought a standing desk for my computer. Check this out. Ready for this? So this is just going to stand up on its own.
Dave, would you like...
Hey, Andy, check this out.
Oh, shit.
All right, I'm officially calling it one of the greatest moments in show history.
Oh, it's so getting so high.
Wow.
Wait a second. Do you all have fucking standing desks?
Whoa, mine's going crazy.
By standing desk, Marlaena is just standing. Wait, Cathy, do you have a standing desk?
Yeah, Cathy does.
Oh my God. Well, now we know why the Disney adults is going to soundly beat computer nerds. Andy, let's keep it going. Yeah, drink up.
So wait, do you want me to talk about Disney adults now? Because I got
Well,
some
we might
thoughts.
as well just move on. This one I think is going to be quite academic. Cathy, let's start with you. Disney adults.
Ugh.
There we go.
It's the same thing as the Marvel fans and the comic fans and the DC fans. I feel like there's so much identity that's rooted in this like perfect world
Yeah.
that I have trouble getting on board with.
Well, it's the like, isn't it so weird that I'm pretending to be a kid right now? Like,
Oh
like
God.
even when they're self-aware, they're toilet people.
Oh, James, I love this energy.
Dave, let's go to you.
So I think I have a mixed opinion. I'm gonna be diplomatic again. I was actually flown to Disney World in a private jet by a Disney
You
adult.
can't
What?
you can't
That's
have a
not
story
true.
acting like these people are Disney adults.
What do you
He
mean?
just wants to tell the story. Let's continue.
No, so this guy owns.
Let's
call
give him
him
a
Dave.
code name. Let's call him Mickey
Dave
Mouse.
Kaufman.
We'll call him Mickey Mouse. He was like an original employee of Facebook. I shouldn't even say, of a big tech company called Facebook. And
AKA a computer nerd.
computer nerd. And he flew us, my company, which was a startup, to Disney World because the guy he was going to go with had to cancel on him. And he flew like 5 people. He just had this chartered jet, jet chartered, and we went to Disney World, and it was awesome.
But that doesn't make you a Disney adult. Going to Disney World or Disneyland, we're talking about the people.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
Well, we'll say so. This guy has
doing
a
the
really.
cruise.
This
You're
guy has a
doing the-
pass, a Disney pass that's like a premium. Like it's called Club 33, and it's like a secret Disney club.
It's
And,
where you
like,
die at 33.
It's
The same year as Jesus.
it's the Janis
never
Joplin,
grow
Jimi
up.
Hendrix.
That's the 27
That's
club.
the 27 club, yeah. And it's all these rich people who they know their name. You go in, they're like, "Oh, Mr. So and So, welcome back to Disney World."
Mr. Zuckerberg.
Yeah, wasn't Zuckerberg. And so I think that this guy just really likes Disney World, so he flies there like.
But that,
6,
but
7
I
times
hate
a
to
year.
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
That's not a Disney adult. The Disney
No,
adults are the one who are wearing the Mickey Mouse ears and like they still put on like what's My Little Mer or the little what's
Little
Littlest
Mermaid.
Mermaid? What's it called?
The Little
Littlest
Mermaid.
Little Mermaid, James.
Right? And they're the ones who walk into a room and if they do karaoke, it's I can show you the world. Marlaena, let's go to you, Disney adults. Dave is just flexing right now.
I do agree with you, James, that being super into amusement parks and really being into Disney World and Disneyland is I think they overlap, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a Disney adult. I work at a vintage clothing store. I see like the dregs of old clothes every single day. And Disney adults are the people who go into Hollister and buy a Little Mermaid leather purse, or they have like tasteful like tchotchkes in their home, and it's like a framed a gorgeous like vintage poster of like Beauty and the Beast. And here's the thing: is that in another timeline, I could easily be one of these fucking people. Because the truth is, the Disney Renaissance, no relation to Fair, has, those were the movies that I grew up with when I was a kid. And I'm going to say it, they're very good. Specifically, Little Mermaid is an excellent film.
I think you mean My Little Mermaid, also known as the Littlest Mermaid.
That's the
adult
porno
version.
version.
Come on, James. Tell him yourself.
But yeah, it's and again, I think we can also think about how, like true nerds wreck the thing for everybody else.
Oh, that's a great point. But like again, the thing that I don't like about Disney adults is that they act cute.
Yeah, it's gross.
Andy, Disney adults.
Oh, look, James.
Here we go.
Let me just get back down here.
I'm going up.
All right, see you later, Dave.
All right, take care.
I think so. I have somebody in my family who's a Disney adult
Oh,
who I like,
okay,
and
so
they're
sorry.
great. And no, it's okay. You know,
Okay.
they're very much a fan of the Disney universe and theme parks. And there's an element to it that's maybe a bit Arrested Development. You know, where you never fully kind of got comfortable with letting go of your childhood, but
Yeah.
I can also understand like the appeal of maybe not this billionaire pedophile friend Dave has, like a theme
That's my
park.
other friend.
These are the vestiges of a dying empire of excess. You get to see the biggest, like, the Star Wars part sounded pretty cool, even though like I don't really have any interest in really Star Wars or Disney. I'd probably go and check it out because it's just big and
But
it's
again,
spectacle.
that's not the topic. Checking
But-
it out isn't the thing.
Sure. Look, all I'll say is I have an empathy for Disney adults and why they're there, but I found a dark subset of Disney adults, which are Disney swingers, and that's pretty unforgivable.
Look,
And for that,
Oh, I
I think
like
they are
that.
going to win this whole competition.
okay, well,
Yeah.
Cathy, why do you like the concept of Disney swingers?
Because I feel like you're taking something that's so sweet and innocent and you're making it like a little bit fucked up.
All right. Well, again, this is not
This is
Computer
for
Nerds
adults.
versus
This is for Disney
swingers.
adults, to
Dave,
be
let's go
clear.
to you.
But
This
aren't
isn't
in
like
those
what we
Disney
think.
movies, aren't there like little hidden,
Oh boy, here he goes again.
Well, you would know.
coded, like,
You and your buddies,
sexual
your
things in
Disney
movies?
dudes.
Sorry.
I mean, think all of those like gorgeous films were drawn by hand, and it's made by a bunch of old pervs. They're gonna sneak a vagina in there every once in every couple frames.
Let's call
couple
it now,
frames.
Cathy. It seems again academic between computer nerds and Disney adults. Your vote goes to
Yeah, there's no question that it's Disney adults.
Yeah.
Andy. Your vote goes to
It's Disney adults, but the
Marlaena.
ones that have sex at the park.
I think if they were having sex, it would make them cooler.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
Computer nerds. Yeah.
Yeah, mine are the Hollister Disney adults who dress head to toe prince of Disney shit. Once you
Got it.
have a Disney princess purse, it's over, sweetheart. You're
So
fucking
it is official. But Dave, let's go to you.
On site.
I'm gonna go Disney adults as well.
I'm also going Disney adults. It is unanimous. Disney adults now moves on to the quarterfinals, which takes place next week. Let's move on to our next matchup: costume play versus role-playing game.
Why do you keep calling it costume play?
Because it's
Yeah, but
cost
it
is
makes
short
it
for
sound like a
costume.
sex thing.
No.
Sometimes it is.
Oh my
True,
God,
but-
Marlaena
but-
Moore. Dave, let's start with you. Cosplay. Your immediate thoughts.
I think it's impressive sometimes, like if it's a really
Sure.
complex costume. I do think it's sort of, and don't jump on my back about this one. Sometimes it's an excuse to be a little bit more forthcoming than you would normally dress.
A little uninhibited is what you're trying to say.
What's
I would
wrong
have called
with
it
that?
uninhibited, but sure.
What's
Is it
wrong
not?
with that?
Okay, Dave, then you're correct.
Nothing's wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with anything.
Marlaena, you're hot to trot right now. Are you trying to tell us something?
I mean, once again, when I look to my past, one wrong move, I am, wearing like carved anime hair at, some place or whatever.
Look at James's face at the idea of anime.
You watch The
hair.
Fifth Element one more time.
Cathy, let's go to you. Cosplay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Dave said. I feel like it's really impressive when it's really done well,
Yes.
but it also feels so deeply nerdy.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
This is all true.
The worst is when they've got the costume on, but they're just wearing regular sneakers.
Or they have their normal glasses on that are very unfashionable.
Yeah, and I
Um,
also feel like there's a thing like when women are dressing up for that, then like they want to attract the type of guy who's like really like
Good for them. Good for them. Let them do it. I'm all for it. I support women
What
dressing.
was your thought going to be,
CNN
Cathy? What was
Crossfire.
your thought going to be?
Um, I don't know. There's just something that's like not sitting like totally there for me
It's a
with it.
little unsettling.
Yeah, there's something unsettling about it. Yeah.
I agree with Cathy. Andy, let's go to you. Costume play.
Okay, so the only person I vaguely knew who did this was a guy who went to my high school who was, I'd characterize him as the most bullied person at my high
Are
school.
we talking about Dimitri
Oh.
Kirez?
His name is Dimitri. No, this is another person. And I checked in, as you find someone on Instagram or Facebook years later, and checked in on him, and he was like a huge cosplay person, but like did really intricate builds on these like power armors and stuff. I feel like he's inventing new metal alloys like I don't know how he builds these fucking things. So for that,
Yeah.
I feel like there was a level of dedication.
Sure.
Exactly.
Like the more intricate replications of these, like, yeah, sure, sometimes it's anime or like, but those things are total fantasy, and
Yeah.
you're trying to make them in real world. I think it's pretty impressive. It takes a certain
That's-
amount of
that's
nerddom.
That's the nerd dedication we're talking about.
Yes,
I think
this
a
is
mech
exactly
costume,
it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Now we're
Yeah.
not talking about the dedication to create, although it could be described as nerdy. Marlaena, let's have a quick thought here before we go to role-playing gamers.
Yeah, here's the thing. Even though I'm going to be most likely voting for this as being nerdier than role-playing games, I also think it's actually really cool when it's done well, because for me, I appreciate good work. I appreciate dedication. I also appreciate people executing fashion and costumes in a way that is excellent.
But
And they're
so
all
many
doing it
of them,
themselves.
so many of them do not execute.
And I don't consider them even part of that community.
But I
I
think,
mean,
but
step
they
it up,
are. If
honey.
they're not, even if they're not good at it, they're still like, I'm Sailor Moon, but
Then
you
that-
can call me Gary.
And they're probably getting obliterated by their communities, who are like, you are
Gatekeeping.
not one of us. Yeah,
Gatekeeping.
I think there's a lot of gatekeeping if you're not stepping it up.
Why is this cooler than Ren Fair?
I was about to say the same thing, Cathy Fagan. It's the same damn thing, except one is happening out in a field with harp music, and the other one's happening at Palais de Congrès.
Listen, I like both of these
Marlaena,
things as a
You're a
concept.
costume player. We can tell. Let's quickly move on.
You're
Role-playing
crossing the line, James.
And what's that now, Dave?
I said you're crossing the line. I'm gonna give you a yellow card.
All right. Okay. Well, at least I don't have my red one yet. Andy, we're going to tabletop role-playing games. You are the most, I guess, authority in this, as you are an enthusiast. Let's go to you. You must have some feelings here.
I haven't dabbled in some time now. It takes a lot of time and effort to play tabletop role-playing games, but
Yeah.
I will say this. I think they're becoming more accessible and more popular to, like, more mainstreamed and less
Yeah.
in the basements of nerds as we typically once thought of it as. So I would, like, as much as it is
Well,
a
so I'm
nerdy
so
thing
glad to
do,
hear that they're moving up from the basement to help people with
like,
accessibility
but
needs.
the amount of times I'm at a wedding and someone's like, hey, this is Greg, he works in finance and he has a D&D game going, do you want to join? You know what I mean? So for me it feels,
But again, we're talking about the nerd side of things. So we are
Sure.
talking about the basement dwelling troll.
I feel like if you're doing like Warhammer 30K, or some like deeper, like D&D nerds aren't that, I don't think,
That's why it's not D&D nerds. It's
dedicated to.
Andy, how long can these games go on for?
Well, then, how wide are we making role playing then? Because then we could say improv is role playing.
We already did improv last week. It lost to
Right.
fantasy nerds. Improv does not count as role playing because this
Sure.
is role playing games.
Tabletop games.
Yes.
Okay.
How
Yeah,
long
I
can
mean-
a game go? Answer the question.
Okay. CNN Crossfire. Yeah, they could go from like, you could do one in an hour if you were really tight with it.
Yeah.
But with setup and stuff, usually the sessions are like 4 to 5 hours.
Can they go close to 10 hours?
If you didn't want to shower, yeah.
I would also say
All right.
that sometimes the story continues, and the actual narrative being built can go on for like a years.
This is true.
Cathy, I want to go to you. Role playing gamers.
I actually think that it's kind of competitive, which makes it different to me than just living in this fantasy world of, some of the other topics that we have. Like this to me feels like anybody could really join in, but that's not what you're talking about. I get it. but I feel like it's yeah, the competitive edge makes it different. Kind of similarly to video games.
I want to tell a story. There used to be a restaurant that many of us would go to called Vieux Saint Laurent. One day, Mark was eating there alone, reading a Dungeons and Dragons guidebook. The server walked over and said, "Oh, what are you reading?" And he said, "Oh, no, nothing." And then he kept telling him to find out, and he was too embarrassed to admit it.
Well,
Another story about Mark. We were sharing a bed on a trip once. He went to bed before me. I walked in. He was asleep like this on the bed, propped up was the Dungeons and Dragons guidebook. I know for a fact he's read them on plane trips as well. If you're reading how-to manuals, my vote is immediately going to role-playing games. You're hanging around. You walk into a room, there's pizza boxes everywhere. People are sweating all over the pizza. My Gorlax can defeat your...
No,
No, he doesn't
I
know
have
what
to
he's
push
talking
back
about.
on this.
Good, I'm glad I don't know what I'm talking about.
Because like you would read a book like any other book, right? On a plane, train,
I don't
restaurant.
go in and read the how-to guide on how to play a video game.
But you could read a how-to guide on almost anything. Like
I wouldn't.
For Dummies, the whole For Dummies series.
Yeah, that should be a list too, the For Dummies series. Add those bathroom readers here. Dave, let's go to you. Role-playing gamers.
You know, I tend to agree that it's something that was nerdy in the 80s, has become sort of mainstream. Those 80s nerds, like it or not, were pioneers and grew this, discovered the undiscovered territory that is role-playing games and charted.
Talking about like they found land.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally emerging from the basement to get their flowers.
I do tend to think that like painting figurines, you know.
Oh.
This is where it gets into the Warhammer.
But that's what we're talking about, the nerd niche of these things.
I also have an appreciation for the trading and collectible selling that a lot of these nerds have been able to do.
Hold on, collectibles is coming up later.
This bleeds into collectibles. It bleeds into like war games, like people who like fucking reenacting like World War II battle games. Mm-hmm. Those are tabletop role-playing games.
It was real.
But but those guys are way nerdier than Dungeons and Dragons people.
Marlaena, role-playing games.
I like them. But I have to agree with Dave. You know, I think you know, the early 2010s really kind of wiped the slate clean in terms of like what we consider to be like true like nerd culture, because it became like cool, you know?
Nerds rule now.
Not anymore.
Look, has anyone here ever walked in on nerds playing these games? Because I have. I opened a door and they all turned and stopped talking. And it was basically their face said, "Oh no."
Did they block the sun out of their eyes?
Yes.
This is interesting because I've taken part in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign before.
Fine.
And it was very fun. And it was with people who, you know, paid their taxes, you know, drank a lot.
Again, the question is not, do they pay their taxes?
Yeah.
Is it fun or not?
It's
everything on the list can be fun.
It's people who aren't nerds who are playing it though now.
Okay,
but the thing is, James, you cannot casually be into cosplay. That cannot be a casual thing.
But we've already argued, you guys have all said that the intricacy that goes into making those costumes is cool, which makes it interesting. One of these is getting voted because you were all
very nerdy.
You were banging the drum for cosplayers, and coming into the chat right now, a level of dedication to wasting time. Quote, "Those nerds grew up as adults and still didn't have sex."
Yeah, but Barnwell's from a generation past.
I bet you cosplayer nerds are having sex.
Yes.
The nerdy,
there's like same to Disney adults.
They're not getting their peckers wet. This is interesting. This is going to be the feistiest vote whatsoever. I vote people hanging out for hours, rolling dice to decide whether or not they can throw fireballs or go to dwarf jail are nerdier than people that wear costumes.
James,
Cathy, where are you voting?
I have to say that cosplayers are not having sex. I think cosplayers are watching cosplay porn.
Still closer to sex than it isn't.
I think a lot of cosplayers are also like professional models who get paid to do it.
I'm talking about
to
the
attract
guy.
the attention of
There's a lot of female cosplayers. The ones who talk like this in little quotes.
Wow,
James,
that's
what are you watching,
hateful.
man?
What's wrong with you?
I'll tell you what, for work, I had to be at Comic-Con last year, and there were so many female nerds that I was like, wow, this has broken the mold on what I think a nerd has to be. We have to vote. Dave, what are you voting for? Nerdiest subset. Tabletop role-playing gamers or costume play?
This is a tough one, James, because I do think that I can imagine a world where neither of these are that nerdy, but that's not the world we live in. So I'm going to go with role-playing games.
Role-playing games. Cathy, let's go to you.
Yeah, I think cosplay is nerdier.
All right, Andy, let's go to you.
It's not even a competition, it's cosplay. You
Costume
don't need
play,
that
nerdier.
much commitment for role-playing games as you do for cosplay.
Oh, I beg to differ if you talk to Mark Rowland. Marlaena, let's go to you.
It's cosplay.
Cosplay has defeated role-playing gamers
What's
as far
your
as
vote,
I'm
James?
concerned. What's that now?
What's your vote?
Vote 100%. It's role-playing gamers.
Okay.
Have you seen these guys?
I think this is more to do with your experience with Mark Rowland.
They've never seen.
To do with anything
I think this
else.
whole month of competition just comes down
It's just
to
things that
Yeah,
Mark
it
annoys
feels-
James with.
Look, but I'm not the only one. Cathy is shuddered at some of these. Me and Cathy are symbiotic in this competition here.
both bullies.
Look, role-playing game guys have never met an oversized sriracha shirt that they didn't love. Moving on to the next.
Again, this feels so specific. Like, what are you talking about?
Our final matchup, we've got weebs, which are people who nerd out over Japanese culture things like anime, manga, versus collectors. To me, this one feels very simple. Andy, you were rubbing your hands. We're going to start with you. How do you feel about weebs, and are you familiar with any?
Okay, I'm slowly becoming one.
Oh,
I've been watching Tokyo Vice, which is a great HBO show, all about Ansel Elgort plays like the biggest weeb you could imagine.
Who?
A white guy who moves to Tokyo to Baby Driver. You're familiar? He moves to Tokyo to become a crime reporter in Japan, and so he learns Japanese and is so obsessed with Japan that he commits himself to living there. So I think and those guys exist. And I can also understand how they get there because Japan is fucking cool. Shogun is also a huge show going on right now. It just taps into to a deep part of the male brain. I guess some women too can get really obsessed with Japan. Let's be honest.
Of course, the women that
yes.
walk around dressed as Harajuku
cosplayers,
girls.
yes. But there's something about it that I think it activates the nerdiest part of your brain, and then you're just like,
Yeah, that's a great
I
point.
want to learn
Cathy,
everything about
I want to
this.
go to you. You ever dress as a Harajuku girl?
No, but I have had an obsession with Japan, and I did actually watch my first anime last year. I got really into Attack on Titan and loved it. And then it kind of just changed the script for me. I know, James, you were expecting me to come in hard.
I was
on-
expecting nothing.
Yeah, I don't believe that. But I think that the nerdiest of the weebs maybe are pretty nerdy.
Yeah. Okay, and that's what we're here to talk about. Dave, let's go to you. Weebs.
Kathy, I will say that you have a bit of a nerdish glow right now. So it's really, you're overwhelmingly happy talking about this, which is surprising to me. I don't know much about weebs.
All right, let's move on to Marlaena. Marlaena, weebs.
I know a lot about him. I almost was one as a young teenager. Went on to.
I feel like many of these categories, you're like one wrong turn, and I could have been one.
Listen, I've lived a lot of lives. Okay, I'm.
We know that you've been skirting around the fact that you're a cosplayer.
I mean, I would if I could. You know, you've seen, I like to dress in costumes, and I think that costumes should be good. So I am passionate about that.
Sure.
I, yeah, I think kind of to what the sheer fact that Cathy, Queen of Cool, just said to James McGee, I watched in my first anime and I loved it. It was very good. Again, it's like Japanese culture has like a huge effect on like Western culture, and you know, and in fashion, in film, animation, video games. I think it's too it casts too wide of a net, and I understand what you're saying, where it's like we're not talking about people who are lightly interested in, but I still really do believe that if the thing we're talking about is able to cast a wide of a net, then like where people can be casually interested in it, then it's not as nerdy. And like Megan Thee Stallion.
That's why we're doing a tournament.
Yes.
That's the reason why we're doing a tournament. I still think weebs are nasty.
Well, then you think that Megan Thee Stallion is nasty, sir.
I don't know.
She loves anime.
I could not pick who Megan Thee Stallion is out of a lineup. I don't know any of her music, but if she's a weeb, then hell yeah.
But here's the other thing. The dedication that certain weebs go to are, again, like in cosplay, greater. Like there are white guys who move to Japan to teach English just to be in Japan and then be immersed in it. And to move to another country, I think.
But again, we're not talking about being interested in a culture. We're not talking about that. We're talking about grown-ups who are sitting there watching Dragon Ball Z.
Hell yeah, great show.
Great show.
Yeah.
We're going to move on now. We're moving on
question.
to...
Sorry. Is Gwen Stefani a weeb?
No.
That's too deep a well to get into for this
She
show.
must have been. She must have been.
No.
Because I'm sure so many weebs are appropriators.
Yeah.
Yes, this is absolutely true. I have a fantastic book all about the Harajuku fashion of like the peak, like late 90s, early 2000s time. And it is very cool, very impressive. A lot of like, this is a whole other conversation.
James is going to borrow it and fall asleep.
See, I thought Marlaena was about to say that she was just a couple moves away from being a Harajuku girl.
I mean, that too, probably.
Let's move on to collectors. We're going with collectors now. Everyone collects something, right? Look, behind me, right here and there. But I'm not, when I leave the house, a walking billboard for a drink. Dave, let's go to you. Collectors. Marlena's leaving. Someone is delivering a Harajuku girl outfit to her right now.
Oh my god.
That's a samurai sword? Is that what we're looking at? It's a fencing sword?
Yeah. Marlaena the Musketeer. Dave, let's go to you. Collectors.
Check out this cool sword.
But when I say collectors, I'm thinking grown-ups that are buying Beanie Babies, toys, action figures, just anything and everything.
I think,
coins.
Now, are they doing it in your mind for money? Like if someone's a collector who flips things for cash and knows
I would say
I
would say personally a flipper. If that's the case, they're a nerd for money, and money's so sick.
Are you a bit of a money nerd, James?
No, but like this is most of the things that I get. I don't spend my own money on anything in my collection. People found out I like it, and then they just keep buying it for me. The amount of money I've spent on Coke things is next to nothing compared to what people, anytime like there's an event coming up, like, oh, I'll buy James this. I've got so many things in my closet just because people buy it for me. So I'm not a money nerd, no. How do you feel about collectors, Dave?
I think that if you have like a deep collection about some sort of, it kind of depends on what you're collecting. I think if it's nerdy, I think I can see it being like pretty, like if you're like collecting like action figures from like your childhood.
Let's think about Steve Carell's character in 40-Year-Old Virgin.
What did he collect? I don't remember.
All these toys, and then in the end, he gives them all away because he starts having sex.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say if you're a toy collector in your 40s, that's pretty nerdy.
All right. Cathy, let's go to you. Collectors.
I honestly think that the collectors category is too non-specific. I don't even think it should be a category, James.
Look,
Wow.
I showed my categories to Dave. He brought up concerns, gave me
Oh,
no
you showed him.
feedback. I showed it to Mark, who initially said it's a very comprehensive list. Then on the show, got mad at the list, which was very nerdy.
I would just say also that you didn't give me the opportunity to give feedback.
You
just said,
no, this is not true.
This
You
isn't
had
verified, and you
no. We were on the phone hours and hours before the show, and then you never got back to me.
no. I know when I'm not going to win you over with an argument.
That's not true. I could have totally been won over.
100% not. You were very dedicated to the list until you got the criticism during the show.
No, that's not true. If you don't try, you'll never get what you want.
I'm telling you, I know you, and that's definitely true.
I think it's 100% incorrect.
All right.
If you had chipped one in, what would it have been?
Math nerd.
Well, if we're saying computer nerds are nerds of the 80s and it's a dated nerd, wouldn't a math nerd be dated too?
Math nerds way different than computer nerds.
That's how I wasn't saying that they're the
Now
same. I'm
that's
saying,
a real computer nerd would say. Sounds like.
whoa, shots fired.
I'm saying
Andy,
I
collectors.
think you missed a category. Ghost nerds.
Yeah, ghost nerds. Yeah.
People who are like really into
you,
ghosts.
You know what would have been a good one? Like astrology nerds.
Yeah.
Mm,
I think beer nerds could have been something.
No, I don't think
Beer nerds,
Beer
yeah.
nerd. No, they don't make you cringe.
You're really into like IPAs.
The nerd type has to make the noises that Cathy and myself have been
What
making
about
for
sex
two.
nerds?
I would say they're more perverts than anything else. Like swingers people. Look,
Like
this is the reality.
Oh my
We've
God.
we've got collectors here. We can't. It's too late, as Nickelback once said.
I agree with Cathy. It's a very broad because like it brings to mind sure the 40-year-old virgin archetype, but
Mm-hmm.
also like Jay Leno with his cars. So it feels like really hard to pin down the level of nerdiness.
but I
here.
think that what James is trying to say with having it be collectors is that it's specifically like I am spending all this money collecting one specific thing
Yes.
that I'm
It's
really
not
really
the
into.
thing.
But the thing does change the level of nerdiness because like you can collect vintage cameras and kind of be like
That's fucking nerdy, bro.
it's nerdy.
I love the fire. I love it.
Or okay, you could I don't know, you could collect freaking I was gonna say guns. That's pretty.
Yeah,
nerdy.
that's what I was thinking.
I don't know.
That's not very nerdy.
Collecting. I don't know if
But
it's something cool.
I think that it is.
Motorcycles.
But if Andy, if I may, I
Yeah.
think that the amount of whatever, like, here's what I'm trying to say is that basically the greater the amount of the collection of this specific thing, the more you make a cool thing into a nerdy thing. You know? And so like if you see like for example, you know, I'm a musician, my boyfriend is a super crazy gear nerd, and so it's like he's not cool anymore because he has too
Right. There is a
he has
crossover.
too
I hear
many
what you're
stuff.
saying. Like
Not for
there is a
everything.
crossover where the amount of stuff you collect
Yes.
becomes a pathology
Exactly.
more than it
and
does an appreciation of a thing.
specifically when it's like a specific thing. Now, I showed you a very cool sword that I own. I have a lot of really, really cool stuff in my house. But here's the thing, is that doesn't make me a nerd. It just makes me a crazy lady because I just
You're
have a
more
bunch
of
of
an
random things.
enthusiast of objects.
You should put our hoarders as a type of nerd.
Yeah.
A nerd
Well,
of
no,
filth.
hoarders is an illness, which is what we discussed with Bronies last week. Look, let's get into it. What weebs or collectors? Dave, we're going to start with you.
It's a tough one, James. I'm gonna go with weebs, and that's my final answer.
All right, Marlaena, weebs or collectors?
Collectors.
Very interesting. Andy, weebs or collectors?
James Hassan, weebs arigato.
Cathy, weebs or collectors?
It really hurts my heart to say this, but I have to choose weebs
Why does it hurt your heart?
because I don't want it to be the nerdier option.
I'm also voting for weebs. But I love the controversy that collectors inspired. So we've gone through all of our matchups tonight, seeds 9 through 16. We began with pro wrestling fans defeating Ren Fair. Now, when the brackets were put together, I think Ren Fair is going to win this. So this is an upset victory for me, but it makes full sense after discussing it. Disney adults handedly defeated computer nerds. Costume players defeated role-playing gamers.
You're saying it like a mom.
Stop calling
Into
it
costume play.
I'm worried if I say cosplay, it makes me one of them. And finally, weebs have defeated collectors, and they join LARPers, sci-fi fans, fantasy fans, and bronies in the quarter finals. This is next week on March 18th. We are breaking down these next 4 matchups where LARPers take on sci-fi fans, fantasy fans take on bronies, pro wrestling fans take on Disney adults. That is going to be a hot matchup. And costume players take on weebs. The stage has been set for the final 8. Final words coming out of tonight. Andy, let's start with you. You were back for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back. I love to see some good competition here. I think what we've whittled it down to here and what you guys had from last week is going to make for a really exciting finals.
Yeah,
real
things
fucking
are getting
nerdy
hot
shit
and
up
heavy.
there.
Marlaena, let's go to you. I think you were able to challenge me for most fired up, and I loved it.
Pleasure to be here as always. I'm glad I got to come in and ruffle some feathers, give some alternative opinions. And, I just will say once again to all the women cosplayers out there, you do you, girlfriend. Get those titties out in that.
Just make sure Dave's not around.
Cathy, let's go to you. Demanded to be here for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, loved it. I strangely am surprised by the results coming out of it, but I love that the discourse kind of changed what I expected coming out of the competition. So
Which is the surprise for you tonight?
I really expected Ren Fair to come out on top.
Yeah.
So did I. I think on paper it looks nerdier, but once we got into the minutia of it, it felt, I was swayed. I want to be swayed, which dates back to Dave. I really wish you had given me topics because I would have happily been swayed. But perhaps it's something about me that's signaling to you that you don't think I can, even though I absolutely can.
Yeah, maybe.
I was swayed tonight. I would have loved to have been swayed because I was the first to say tonight, yeah, maybe collectors could have been cut, but it is what it is. And here's the other thing. We do the leftovers next year.
Gym nerds. That was another one I just thought of.
No, gym nerds aren't nerds.
People are really obsessed
There's too
with
much
working
self-improvement that comes from it.
Awards nerds, Oscar nerds.
out. Yeah.
Well, I think
that's
kind of into cinephiles.
Film cinephiles, yeah.
No, it's different.
Dave,
Yeah, it's different.
that's only something a nerd would say. Dave, let's go to you. Final thoughts.
I think it was a good ep. I think
Just reviewing the app.
I think we had some good conversations, and I give this episode 3.5 stars.
Out of how many?
3.5, James.
Oh, so it's a perfect score.
Perfect score.
With a potential in between 1 and 3.5.
Yeah.
Tonight's ep, as you put it,
Yep.
comes in perfectly with 3.5 stars. Folks, that's it. We will be back next week for the quarter finals. Next week's also interesting. It's very interesting because we simultaneously celebrate a milestone. 4 years of the At Home with James show. And on March 16th, 2020, it is now March 2024, celebrating 4 years. The show has now spanned 5 different years. So this
Four
is
more years.
Yeah, we're going to do 2 full terms. More info on that as the days go on. Until then, for Andy, for Marlaena, Cathy, and Dave, I am James. You are you. We were here. Good night, goodbye, farewell, and of course, be well.